Hi there, this is John Wilkinson again from History Made Easier with another Paper 2 presentation. This time looking at the question that asks why a source was produced at a certain time or on a certain date. So clearly you need to make a note of that date. But the context, the message and the purpose of the source is where the marks really lie. So you have to revise for your Paper 2 topic as well as for Paper 1. Maybe not in as much detail, but you should read through your notes and your textbook, as well as practicing source questions, of course. You know, I have 13 different past papers on the league, if you're interested in tutorials. But another basic tip, keep using the focus of the question. The cartoon was published at this time because, and give you reasons. The reason or the purpose for making the speech at this time was, and again, give you reasons. For all questions, always remember to direct all your work to the specific question you are answering. Never lose sight of the question. Highlight, underline or circle key words. Keep looking back at the question. Now, this first example, as you can see, is a cartoon, published in December 1919. So we know it was published after decisions about the league had been made. And so there's a lot you can make use of in the context. The covenant of the league was known, particularly Article 10, the Collective Security Clause. And you know that the American Senate had rejected it. So the cartoon was published at the time to try and get America to change its mind. The point is, context is very important, and you are instructed in the question to use your own knowledge as well as the source. But let's now look at the messages in the source, and so its purpose. And there is so much in the cartoon to help us. The big message is that without America as a member, the League will be weak. The title of the cartoon is The Gap in the Bridge. The American keystone of the bridge is missing, and so it will surely collapse. But also there are two important sub-messages. First, the sign tells us that the bridge was designed by the American president, President Wilson. So there's a strong criticism there that America has turned its back on its own idea. Second, there's Uncle Sam lying back on the American keystone, chilled, relaxed, complacent. Doesn't he realise that Belgium, France, England and Italy, the names on the bridge, will fall again without American support? And that this will almost likely require America to step in again. So it's also a criticism of American policy. And the purpose is to try and persuade America to join, or to put pressure on the British government to persuade America. We are told that it's a British cartoon. Clear reasons then as to why the cartoon was published in December 1919. There is still time for America to think again. Moving on to the second question, this time from a text, the principles are the same. Context, message, purpose, and use the source to show why it was produced when it was. Now for this source, I would begin with the provenance of the source. Clemenceau, the French Prime Minister, was the author of the source, and the text is taken from his memoirs, written just before he died in 1929. We are told all that, and it is useful. so use it. And we bring the context to the provenance. Clemenceau helped write the peace treaties, but he was not a fan of the League. And if there had to be a league, he wanted it to have an army. As he says in the extract, it had no real power. That's why he is writing. But why 1929? Staying with the provenance, and in doing so on to reasons and purpose, memoirs are usually written by politicians to nudge history into thinking well of them. They are putting their spin on the events they were involved in, trying to distance themselves from any blame, if there is cause for blame. And so to Clemenceau's message in the source: the League was never going to work. I always thought that, so don't blame me for it not working. It was always going to be a talking shop. He refers to super talking, where problems would only multiply, intensify. And writing his memoirs 10 years after the conception of the League, he thinks he's been proven right. I would only add that I don't think that he died soon after this was written is a factor. That it is a memoir is what's important. Clemenceau is justifying his disregard for the League from when President Wilson first proposed it, making the point that he had been right all the time about it. Use the context of the 1920s to explain why Clemenceau thinks he is justified in saying this at the end of the 1920s. The League had already shown weaknesses, starting with Vilna in 1919, with Corfu in 1923, its biggest failure to date. Though it still hadn't done anything about disarmament either. As Clemenceau writes, the reality had entirely fulfilled my expectations, adding that the League will not determine the peace of the future. He can only write this after the League has been operating for 10 years. That's why he's saying it in 1929. And by the way, I've highlighted the parts of the extract that you could use, though I wouldn't use all that I've marked. Never rewrite the source. So, key learning points. If appropriate, use everything associated with the source, which of course includes its provenance. Think of context, message and purpose, as well as the date. And don't forget the question you are answering. The source was published at this time because... and give your reasons. As always, thank you so much for listening, and good luck with your studies. Don't forget, paper 2 is a winner for you. And don't forget, if you think you need more help with this paper, I might have a tutorial slot available. Just get in touch with me, or better still get your parents to, at historymadeeasier@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. Cheers.